Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Networking and Marketing Made Simple. Super excited for today's episode. Obviously, you know it's Thursday, so it is a interview episode, and I have another incredible entrepreneur, coach, consultant to bring to you guys today from across the pond. So I love I would say, wide array of guests that I have. You guys have been listening to this podcast. I've had guests from all over the world, every continent except Antarctica. I haven't bridged that, but I did interview someone that went to Antarctica, so that might qualify for something. But either way, I'm excited to have my guest for you guys today. This is someone with almost 3 decades of experience in the health coaching realm, healing, and all of those things so you know that you're going to be getting some value added information today and a lot of experience obviously involved. So without further ado, Michelle Davies, welcome to today's episode.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, wonderful to have you. So, before we dive into obviously your specialty and everything that you're obviously now doing to help people, I always like rewinding the tape so we can give more context of how someone got to where they are today. So, if Michelle can rewind her own timeline tape of her business journey over the last 27 years, and you could press stop at a point in that journey that you really feel was that impactful moment or that catalytic moment that really kind of pushed you into everything that you're doing today. What was that moment for you?
Well, I decided to do what I'm doing now when I was 13. So I was just a teenager, and already I knew that I wanted to have a career in helping people to feel better, but using only natural methods, not the methods of surgery or drugs. And that's because I grew up with a mum being a healer. And so we didn't go to the doctors. We relied upon natural remedies, reflexology, homeopathy. And I would see my mum treating patients from home. And she was also a yoga teacher. And she would be regularly meditating. So I was brought up that way. And I thought, I would love to do this. This looks really fun. And so, yeah, I was 13. And then I went to university to train to be an osteopath. And that was actually when I was 18. And I studied the degree in osteopathy for 4 years. And then I haven't done anything different since then. I've been practicing osteopathy. My title has changed. So I don't use the title osteopath anymore. I haven't used that since 2021. But apart from that, I'm practicing in the same way, practicing osteopathy. So my story goes way back, I would say, to 13.
Yeah, sometimes we find our path at a very young age. For me, obviously, I've had different iterations of coaching and consulting. I started when I was 19. So I always tell people that, I've been psychologically unemployable since day one. So I haven't worked for anyone. I don't know what that's like. I don't know what a job interview is like. And I feel very blessed and fortunate to be able to have the career that I've continued to have with myself and my wife and the businesses that we run together because of those early, I would say, teenage experiences that a lot of people don't get to experience. And I think you can probably say the same for yourself. Kind of knowing your path at such a young age, it almost clears out a lot of the distractions that we may have and the shiny objects and all the things that were said that we have to do as far as finding our path and going down certain roads. And I can definitely attribute a lot of the stuff that I'm doing today because of that, and I know you could as well. So, as you look back on your journey, and obviously there's a lot of learning lessons involved, and obviously there's different chapters of our lives when it's just us, and then obviously, as we get older, things change, life changes, whether it's getting married, whether it's having kids, this, that, or the other. How did you, with everything that you kind of learned about everything that you do, obviously there's different curveballs and there's different things that kind of get thrown at us. Is there something that you can recall that was seen as a very challenging moment for you when it initially kind of bubbled to the surface, but in retrospect, that specific situation really helped you grow to where you are today?
Actually, yes. I would put that down to 2016 and then 2021. Um, in my career, training to be an osteopath, I wasn't restricted in the way that I was practicing. So our founder of osteopathy is from 1874, and it's about how the body can heal itself and how we can empower and inspire and educate other people to self-heal. And I was very happy in my practice from the age of 18 up until year 2016. Won't work out my age from there. But at that point, the Advertising Standards Authority came along and then started to be very bullying and affecting how osteopaths could practice. So we were then limited to how we could advertise what we were doing and how we could speak about what we were doing to our patients and then how we could market. So my practice then had to change in 2016. And I felt like I'd got duct tape across my lips for every single day, whether I was speaking on the phone to a new patient or even having a patient in my treatment room. I was really worried about saying the wrong thing because I needed to comply with the Advertising Standards Authority in order to be able to maintain my title of osteopath. And I faced the big decision that in 2016, did I want to still continue to have this title of osteopath? Because now I was being told how to work and how to talk and what to avoid saying. And that was really difficult for me because I had been free practicing safely and according to the regulator and very happy. But then I had to decide on whether I wanted to maintain that title or not with the regulator. Now, at that point, I really didn't feel brave enough, strong enough, courageous enough to go out on my own without a title because my title was me, it was my identity, and from when I was 13. So there was no way that I could contemplate not having the title because I just didn't know how I would work without it. So I changed the way I practiced. And then I had a period where I thought, this is so uncomfortable now. I can't do this anymore. I just don't like the feeling of being so restricted. And then I started to feel guilty that I wasn't able to help the patients that I could be helping because they were not hearing the truth about what my work could do. And I started to think that actually it was more harmful not being true to myself and not being true to the public. So I decided to take on the regulator in 2021 and make a claim against them um, for the harm that it was causing myself and the public. It was a huge turning point because it involved then a 3-year case against me. And at the end of the 3 years, I was actually stripped of my title. So it was withdrawn. It was a very stressful, emotional time. But it was incredible at the same time because I had to find my own voice. I had to stand up for myself. I had to represent myself because I couldn't be represented by anybody else because the legal profession would have wanted me just to comply with the regulator. And that's what I couldn't do. Um, so I had to just take on the battle by myself with very little support from even family, friends, or colleagues because I just knew what was in my heart. I knew what I had to do, and I did it. And off the back of that, I actually won the public vote. I invited the public to the hearings I went through, and I came out victorious at the end. And now, because of my integrity and speaking my truth and honoring the public, I'm now in a position where I have patients flying in to consult me from Europe. I have patients traveling hours in a car or on a train to see me. I've got a practice in Harley Street and I'm doing what I love, but now I'm doing it in a way that I'm free. because I don't have anyone dictating to me what I can say and what I can do. So I am free. And because I've always been safe, there's never been one patient complaint in 27 years against me, and I've never done anyone any harm. All I've done is actually help people heal and get better and recover. And so I do that now, but with a sense of freedom and authority, because I am my own authority. The only person I answer to is my creator, is to God. And the whole case was because I wanted to be obedient to God instead of my regulator, because there was a big opposition between the two. And at the end of the day, I decided that my creator was more important than my regulator. And so I chose to follow my heart, the truth, and integrity.
Yeah, I think there's great power in carving out your own path and speaking your truth because it's almost like you break away from, I would say, the walls that once surrounded you and kind of keeping you in this box and having you play a certain way and be safe and comfortable and nothing expansive happens when you're playing it safe. You got to really push the limits and you got to stretch yourself and you got to get uncomfortable. And, for you, speaking that truth was maybe uncomfortable at the time, but I always tell people when getting uncomfortable becomes comfortable, you're doing really big things. And I can definitely say that that's something that you're doing now. So, first, thank you for sharing all of that. That gives the audience great context of the things that you had to kind of navigate through. And I do want to talk about the aspect of natural healing because a lot of people aren't too familiar or they may have heard of the term natural healing, but they may not understand the context that kind of goes into it and, obviously how it works. So, if you had to explain in the most simplest way for people that maybe have heard of natural healing but don't know what a healer does and how it all works, what's the best way that you can explain that to the audience?
I'd say the best way is that we are all born with an innate ability to heal and repair ourselves, but we have to take responsibility in that journey. That responsibility is recognizing if you have a symptom, that is a warning sign that there is something wrong and that it needs addressing. But if you look after the structure of your body, so your alignment and your posture, and you move and you treat your body like a temple, so you eat well, you sleep well, you hydrate well, the body can repair from most things. Also, it's important to address not just your physical body, but also mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, because we live in 4 quadrants of life: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And it's about having a balance in those quadrants and supporting our body to be at its best. But we are born to heal ourselves. We have good blood flow, good drainage, and good structural alignment. And also that we detox well, then we can heal ourselves. We don't need pills and surgery. Of course, sometimes it is necessary, but as practitioners, we recognize that also when we have to make referrals for surgery. Sometimes it is imperative a person has surgery on their back, for example, if they don't, because they may be paralyzed. So there are cases, of course, yeah, where natural medicine or natural healing, it's beyond, so you can't actually heal yourself. But a lot of the time, I think it's about catching the problem early enough. So it's the first warning signs. And if you do something about those and you continue to look after yourself, generally illness and disease will not belong to you because you have addressed the first symptom that you've had. So I treat physical things and I treat mental things and spiritual things. I treat everything with my hands. And all I'm doing is applying my hands in a certain way to the body, and I can detect and feel what's wrong, whether it is emotional or physical. And then with my hands, I can guide the body into releasing, letting go, reaching a balance, and flowing better. And then it's about empowering the patient to take responsibility with me and following some advice. That could be advice about their nutrition, or their sleep habits or exercise or things that they should be maybe thinking about, like being the gatekeeper of their thoughts and trying to stop the intrusive thoughts. Um, yeah, we do have all the answers. But sometimes we just need to seek someone like myself as a guide to be able to access that ability to heal and repair.
No, I agree, and I think, for me, just for the audience, there's two things that I've been kind of diving into. One is lymphatic massage. We have a lymphatic system, which basically, um, it's almost like our highway system where everything kind of connects. And I'm still in the fitness industry, but more from the competition standpoint. I do powerlifting. I was a gym owner, personal trainer, nutritionist for years and years and years and years. My father still competes as well. I left the industry back in 2016, and it's still a part of my daily life. And my wife and I do believe in holistic healing, so we both believe in lymphatic massage, and I had one for the first time a couple weeks ago, and it was amazing. And you're not supposed to do it too often, but draining the lymphatic system kind of helps healing. And a lot of people that have gone through cancer actually, really, really benefit from lymphatic massage because a lot of the body's response to and from cancer happens from the lymphatic system. Something else that my wife and I just started doing is transcendental meditation, which has been just super, super beneficial for us. And reason being, as someone with a lot of wellness knowledge, a lot of people that don't know this is that rest is one of the best forms of medicine. When your body is at rest, that is when it can heal. And through many modalities, what Michelle does, through transcendental meditation, like what Nancy and I do, you're putting the body at rest and you're addressing the undersurface issues. A lot of people will go through things and they get band-aids on things. You're feeling this way, I don't believe in band-aids. I like getting to the root cause. And a lot of stress, internal stress, elevated cortisol levels can attribute to many things. They can continue to elevated blood pressure, elevated cholesterol, elevated heart rate, all those things. And if you treat the cause and not the effect of something, you can start to heal the body from the inside out. So, Michelle, obviously this other method and other ways of healing the body, just like you kind of forementioned with what you do, is becoming more mainstream. It's not so airy-fairy anymore, and it's not for hippies, and you know it's becoming a mainstream practice by high performers, people that really want to continue to level up. And I consider myself and my wife high performers. We have three businesses. We have to be on top of our game. We have very, very audacious goals each and every year. So it requires a lot of our energy. So that needs to be protected. What are some misnomers about what you help people with compared to what people may think about this natural healing process compared to your point? Yes, there may be some times where you need surgery. You're going to have to go to a surgeon. I mean, that's a whole separate conversation. But what are some misnomers about how you address people's issues from the root cause, whether it's something in between the 6 inches of their head to something internal, and how that's addressed?
So I'll touch on what you were saying earlier about the lymphatic system because you brought that up. I actually treat the glymphatic system with my hands. Now, the glymphatic system is the similar lymphatic system, but it's the detoxing around the brain. And it's difficult for you to access that, but there are ways that you can access it. And I can explain those. But somebody like myself actually can feel that. I can feel the flow of the glymphatic system and I can manipulate it with my hands. So I can aid the flow, which helps the brain to detox the toxins. And they've only been studying this, I think, in the last 16 years. So for the medical profession, it's new. I've been doing this, though, for 27 years, the actual application of my hands and working with it. The glymphatic system is what keeps your brain healthy. And it needs the rest, as you were saying before. It needs sleep because it actually detoxes when you go into a deep sleep. The problem is that a lot of people don't go into the deep sleep and they're not able to do the detoxing themselves. I am treating mental health issues, significant issues such as suicide ideation, depression, anxiety, self harm, and other psychiatric illnesses like psychosis. I'm treating those conditions with my hands, applying them to the cranium in particular, to be able to help the glymphatic system flush the toxins away from the brain. And what I'm finding in my work is that that is bringing immense relief to patients with mental ill health. Now, the mental ill health to them has seemed like it's their fault. They don't know what's caused it. They can't understand why they're so depressed, or they feel so disconnected when they have everyone around them loving them and supporting them, but there's something not right. And I'm finding the reason for that. And I'm finding that they've got blockages within their glymphatic system and it's dysfunctional. And that often is because of a head injury. And the head injury has caused the disruption, but it might have been from that person's birth or from a head trauma, like a child banging their head on a trampoline. As simple as that, it can cause a disruption in the glymphatic system, which then can cause a mental illness. And this is something which I'm trying to put the message out for people to appreciate that, because we have a huge mental illness crisis. And I don't think many people would know that their problem is then not mental health, but more a physical, structural problem with their brain not detoxing. And I published a book to talk about this. The book title is called Mental Clarity. And I've written 10 chapters, and each chapter has daily habits that your listeners could follow, because it would really benefit so many people if they knew how that they could detox their own brain, because then it gives them also a reason for why they've had so much suffering, this unexplained condition that they've had. And it's not explained by the medical profession, because the medical profession end up prescribing and overprescribing, and then the drugs not even resolving the mental health problem that the person has got. And quite often that's the patient I see, because they've tried all of the drugs. They've even been hospitalized, and they're still hearing the negative voices. They're still doing self-harming or considering suicide, because the root cause of the problem, it's not being addressed. And if anything, the drugs cause more toxicity to the brain. If the brain could detox, the brain can then cope with the toxins of the drugs. But unfortunately, in these patients, their brain isn't detoxing anyway, because they've had a head injury. But in every case, I found concussion. So
So
that's my
where,
main this year.
well, as we obviously progress into the future, there's more research, there's more studies, um, being very involved in athletics and sports, and obviously being a sports fan, especially in the NFL here in the States, CTE is a big thing. Um, More retired professional athletes, especially in high contact sports like football, American football, um, there's a higher rate of suicide, dementia, Alzheimer's, Lou Gehrig's, a lot of neurological issues. Again, the preventative way for that is not to play. So, sidebar to that, where do you see the realm of holistic and natural healing going into the next 12 to 24 months? Because as we kind of talked about, it's becoming more mainstream. There's more people speaking out on it. There's more people practicing it. There's more availability for it. So where do you see that aspect of the wellness industry going in the next year or two?
There's much more demand, and it's so helpful having social media, because patients can get their stories out there, practitioners can talk. The problem we have is that like for myself, if I maintained my title, then I'm not free. And there are a lot of practitioners that are out there with a title and that aren't free to say actually the truth and how they practice. And that is because of big pharmaceutical industry, because we take money out of their pocket. We don't put money into their pocket. And I think we will potentially always have that issue. But I think with social media, it does make it easier for patients to find out about what practitioners are working holistically. But even then, the practitioner has to be careful what they say. So a lot of it really is word of mouth, or those that have decided not to be on the registers anymore and they just use their own title. Osteopathy has, and cranial osteopathy, it's been around before medicine. It's just that we've been restricted so much. And so you can imagine that if the criteria is so strict, then maybe the practitioners don't want to be a part of that. So they leave the register and they set up their own little body. So I think there will always be that battle, but the demand is huge because more and more people do want to take responsibility for their healing, and then they realize that they can heal and repair themselves. The problem then as well is affordability. So a lot of practitioners are private and it's not available on the NHS. But as people, I think, value themselves more and have better self-worth, they start valuing themselves and then they start seeking alternative ways as opposed to just taking a pill and not taking actually any responsibility for the condition that they've got. But first of all, we need to raise the awareness that it is actually possible and that we've all got this power inside of us to be able to access that and heal and repair, rejuvenate.
So if you had to, as we wind down, leave the audience with a final message, or if someone is listening to this and they're wondering if they're a qualified candidate to work with you in some way, shape, or form, go deeper as far as who are the best people that you can help, you can assist, whether it's something um, wellness related. Maybe it's someone like me who likes to get ahead of illness, and I like to be very proactive in taking care of my own body. Who are the types of people that you can help and how?
So who can I help as a practitioner? Do you mean
As
the
yeah,
patient?
from a client standpoint, who are the best people that Michelle can work with to get the results that they're looking for?
To be honest, I would say working with the babies and the children, because a lot of the problems that adults face is because of unresolved trauma and injury from childbirth and early childhood. And if every child could be taken and treated by a cranial osteopath or someone who practices cranial osteopathy, the world could be so much better. Because a lot of the conditions that children are diagnosed with, they don't have to be diagnosed with those conditions because they could have been treated. So actually, we need to kind of rewind and go right back to treating babies and children much, much more, and then being preventive of the issues, because we treat from 2 days young through to people in their 90s or 100. So we treat every age group, and I certainly would treat from 1 day or 1 or 2 days old. I treat, and equally males and females, sportsmen and women, people working in offices, farmers, just, yeah, entrepreneurs, just any human. Because we work with any person's body, mind, spirit. But I think, yeah, let's treat more babies and children and have the world looking a better, healthier place that way.
Get ahead of it from the start instead of letting things happen later on and try to fix what sometimes, not that it can't be undone, but let's get a head start so there are no issues moving forward. I love
Yes.
that. I love that. So, before I get to my final question, Michelle, if the audience is interested in learning more about you and obviously how you can help them, where's the best way for people to find you online, on social media, and how can they reach out?
So I'm going to offer your listeners, your viewers, a free PDF of my book, the latest book, which is called Mental Clarity. And they can find that from braincareexpert.com. And I also have a free training for how to sit correctly at your desk for better posture and better energy. That's really helpful. And that's a free tool as well. And that's at smartersitting.com. And then if you just want to find out more about the patients that I've treated and the testimonials that I regularly receive from patients, you could go to worcester-osteo.com.
Love that. And all the information that Michelle just shared will be in the show notes, the description, and the email that goes out to everyone. So you're not going to have to look too far. And Michelle, thank you for offering everyone a free PDF copy of your book. I know that's very valuable. And if anybody, obviously does download it, I'm sure it's available on Amazon as well. Is that correct?
Yes, you could buy it from Amazon.
Yep. So if you end up getting the free copy, still go to Amazon and leave her book a rating and review, obviously, to do so and let her know. So, Michelle, final question before we sign off today. What does success truly mean to you?
Success. Um, Success means to me being at your optimum spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically. If you can be at your optimum in all those four, you are truly successful.
I agree. It's all encompassing. And I think success means something different for each person. And as long as you stay true to that, whatever that meaning may be, you're always going to be on your path. So, Michelle, first, I just want to thank you for all the incredible work that you're doing for people and how you're helping them. Obviously, the world needs more Michelles, and I know, I hope this gets out to as many people as possible so it starts impacting them in a meaningful way. And second, I just appreciate all the time, the energy, the information, the education that you shared on today's episode. I know everyone is going to take so much away from it. So, thank you again for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. So again, any and all information about Michelle will be in the show notes, the description of this episode, and the email. And remember, she has also given all of you a free downloadable PDF of her latest book. So make sure that you do download that, and please do support her on social or on Amazon by leaving her a rating and review. So everyone, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Love and gratitude, and I'll talk to you next time.